Grand Rising, Grand Rising. Hope everyone's doing well.
Grand Rising.
Everyone's doing well. Grand Rising, Pamela Hall. Grand Rising, Iron Flying Squirrel. Grand Rising, J. Susquehanna. Grand Rising, McDonald 1. Grand Rising, Golden Moon.
Anybody can hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Let's see if the chat can hear you. Everybody throw up them ones if y'all can hear myself and Bones. Got a 1 from Iron Flying Squirrel. Got a 1 from Enrique. And Enrique, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name. If I am, please correct me. Grand Rising Copper Color Queen. Grand Rising Big Hawk. Sure I got everybody. Alright. Thank you, Enrique. Appreciate you. Welcome to the Cab Grand Rising Show. Pamela Hall says you sound a little like a robot, Bones. So give us a mic check, Bones. Bones. Give us a mic check, sir. Hope everyone's doing well this rising. Sorry, I was up preoccupied. But like I said, hope everyone's having a grand rising this morning. Oh, this rising, excuse me. Still got to get over that. Today is Tuesday. I think today is Tuesday, isn't it? Wanted to, like I said, make sure everybody can hear us, which seems to be good. And before we get started with our history lesson, if you will, based off of the Cherokee Nation and the Chickamauga, we always want to let people know who we are. We attach to this assembly. Some of us refer to us as A2 because it's easier to say. My name is TMH, Thomas Jefferson. We also have it join us on the panel from time to time. Well, normally it's no sellout, and you have Bones McCoy. You heard him speaking earlier. Grand Rising Doodle Vision. The link is in the chat when you're ready to come on in. Doodle Vision is our resident American Indian who's able to tie a lot of this information in and make it make sense. Helps us either debunk or confirm what has been written. He said Resident Evil. At the end of the day, Conscious Assembly is about helping people get the work done. Our mission is to provide educational, cultural, and social services that reconnect Indigenous Americans back to their tribe. Our mission as a nonprofit organization is dedicated to raising up Indigenous American voices. Yeah, Bones. Bones.
Hello?
Bones, can you hear me?
I hear you.
I was getting feedback. All right, try this again. Again, our mission is as a nonprofit, we're dedicated to raising up Indigenous Americans' voices by using genealogy, also known as family history, and which is a study of families and the tracing of their lineage and history. And genealogists, they use oral interviews, historical records, genetic analysis, and other records to obtain information about a family and to demonstrate the kinship and pedigrees of its members. Our core values are the foundation of our company, essential to our success, and allows us to serve as a lens through which we evaluate every business decision. And those core values are integrity, which basically is know and do what is right. Respect, treating others the way you want to be treated. Responsibility, embrace opportunities to contribute. And servant leadership, serve the common good. And as we always say, we're not here to tell you who you are. We're not here to tell you who you're not. We're here to help those individuals who want to tie back into their tribe. If you find out that you are American Indian or have family that is American Indian, and if you so choose to not only help your tribe but also help your community become self-sufficient, we're here to help you do that. We're not no internet police, and we're not the social police, but we do believe in making sure we do our part and clean our own house. So, is there anything I left out, Bones?
Nothing that I can think of.
Okay. Is Bones sound okay to everybody?
1 2 1 2. Mic check.
Panama Hall says, there he goes.
Alrighty.
You said turn
That
Bones
should be
up.
able to mess with this.
Alright, hold on. Let me see if I can turn you up a little bit.
Let me up on the left. Oh. Let me back down a little. No, let me stop.
Alright. I got you now. Alright. Cool beans. Flying Squirrel says, whether Chickamauga, we need them on the line. Well, as of right now, as of this moment, I don't think we or know of any Chickamauga that's attached to a tribe or anyone that knows any Chickamauga history. But we do have a Choctaw in the chat, aka Choctaw Jimmy, aka Doodle Vision, aka James Flame. So hopefully he'll be in to be able to come on the line and help us with this history we about to go into, with these Cherokee wars and the migration to the lower towers from the Chickamauga and their chief dragging Canoe, not to be confused with Dragon Canoe.
No, he was dragging a canoe.
Say what?
So basically, he was dragging a canoe.
Dragging, I mean, that's what I would have to surmise. He said he was dragging a canoe. So I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the chat. And we will be able to get started. Okay, I see Doodle Vision's on one all right now. He says enter the dragon. He says enter the dragon. Alright, so I just put the link to the chat. I mean to the Wikipedia page. And again, the Wikipedia page has sources, So you'll be able to validate, verify, debunk, critique, criticize the sources. And we are starting with migration to the lower towns. Golden Moon says he must have been good at dragging the canoe. Yeah, I would think so for him to get that name. All right. So I hope everybody has their hard hats on because we're about to get ready. It will be definitely uh, going deep, getting those pickaxe, them backhoes, some front end loaders, and them hard hats. Grand Rising, David Corey. Stop being so critical of artists. Grand Rising, Ladarian Woods. So we're starting with migration to the lower towers. The link is in the back chat for those of you who just getting in. So it reads, upon finishing their move, Dragging Canoe and his people established what whites call the 5 lower towns downriver from the various natural obstructions in the 26-mile Tennessee River Gorge, known locally as Cache Canyon, starting with Tuskegee, aka Browns or Williams Island, and the sandbars on either side of it. These obstructions included the Tumbling Shoals, Holston Rock, the Kettle or Suck, the Suck Shoals, the Deadman's Eddy, the Pot, the Skillet, the Pan, and finally the Narrows, ending with Hale's Bar. The whole 26 miles was sometimes called the Suck, and the stretch of river was notorious enough to merit mention even by Thomas Jefferson. These navigational hazards were so formidable, in fact, that the French agents attempting to travel upriver to reach Cherokee country during the French-Indian War, intended to establish an outpost at the spot later occupied by British agent McDonald, gave up after several attempts. Pamela Hall, I'm reading at the migration of the lower towers, the Cherokee American Wars. I put the link in the chat. So it's basically almost half of the way down. The paragraph is migration of the lower towers. Grand Rising Alphawood Jones, Prince William County represent.
Peace, peace.
So this first paragraph is talking about the actual terrain of the lower towns. And it seems like it had to have some tactical advantage if it were causing the French agents to quit after several attempts to come upstream. So that means Dragging Canoe must have picked a pretty good spot. Second paragraph reads, the 5 lower towns included Running Water, Amugayani at the current Whiteside in Marion County, Tennessee, where Dragging Canoe made its headquarters. Nickajack, which is Ani Kusadi or Kuwasadi Place, 8 kilometers down the Tennessee River. Long Island, Amoyi Ligun Haita, on the Tennessee just above the Great Creek crossing. Crowtown, Kaguni on the Tennessee at the mouth of Crow Creek, and Stekoyi or Utsuti Guayi, or Lookout Mountain Town, at the current site of Trenton, Georgia. Tuskegee Island Town was reoccupied as a lookout post for a small band of warriors to provide advance warning of invasions, and eventually many other settlements in the area were resettled as well. Yes, David Corey. His name is Nickajack. That's one of the locations, not the name of a person. That's the headquarters of where Dragon Canoe's people were, of the lower towns. Goes on to read, because this was a move into the outskirts of Muskogee territory, Dragon Canoe, knowing such a move might be necessary, had previously sent a delegation under Little Owl to meet with Alex McGilvery, the major Muskogee leader in the area, to gain their permission. When the Cherokee moved their base, so did John McDonald, now deputy to Thomas Brown, along with his own assistant, Daniel Ross, making Running Water the base of operations. Graham's deputy, Alexander Campbell, set up his own base at what became Turkeytown. So, it's basically talking about the setup, the landscape, and also their alliances. What I want to do is find out who this Alex McGilvery is. McGillivray. It says the major Muskogee leader. So I got a feeling he's a very interesting, if not an integral part to what's going to be happening. So I'm going to put his name and a link in the back chat. So let's get them hard hats ready. All right. So we get a warning from Wikipedia that reads, the neutrality of this article is disputed. Relevant discussion may be found on the talk page. Please do not remove this message until conditions to do so are met. So there is already some dispute about the information. So take it with a grain of salt. Realize that the sources are at the bottom of this page. And let's get ready. Alexander McGillivray, also known as Hoboy Hill Miko, December 15th, 1750, transitioned February 17th, 1793. He was a Muskogee Creek leader, the son of a Muskogee mother and a Scottish father. Oh boy. Is anyone noticing a theme here? So his mother was Muskogee, and his father was Scottish.
It's that same pattern, that over and over that same month, boy.
And Doodle Vision says, yeah, a lot of half-breeds, says Pamela. And then Doodle Vision says, these Acadian chiefs again. Exactly. All right, here we go. They said he had skills no other Creek of his day had. He was not only literate, but educated, and he knew the white world and merchandise trading well. Uh-oh. Grand Rising Oak Cliff. We are reading about the migration of the lower towns in the Cherokee American Wars, and I put the link in the paper. I put the link in the chat. And we basically had to take a side or detour, if you please, dealing with Alexander McGillivray. At this particular time, he's a Muskogee Creek leader. He has a Muskogee mother and a Scottish father. and they read and said that he was literate and educated. Basically, he understood English, he could read it, he could write it, and he could communicate with the Europeans. And it says, these gave him prestige, especially with European Americans, who were glad to finally find a Creek leader they could talk to and deal with. Talk to and deal with. Are they trying to insinuate that the Muskegee were very difficult people to deal with, i.e. control? I don't know. Prior to contact with Europeans, the Creek did not have leaders or rulers in the European sense. Of course, because they didn't respect them. Probably because a lot of them were the women of the council. He used his role as link between the two worlds to his advantage, not always fairly, and became the richest Creek of his time. I smell a sellout. McGillivray was literate, and his voluminous correspondence has survived. In many cases, his letters are the only source for events in his life, and they naturally present him in a very good light. Recent historians have taken issue with the heroic status he had in early histories. McGillivray's status among the Creek, who did not customarily have a single leader, was controversial and sometimes resented. His chief asset to ensure he was seen as a leader was his ability to hand out gifts to the Creeks from both Britain and Spain. He was the most Anglicized of the Creeks and built solid houses, planted orchards, and ran a plantation. And in parentheses says he owned 60 slaves, which made him suspect. And it said it made him suspect. So, being that up until this time, we haven't heard any mention of any slave ships or any Africans, one can surmise that those slaves were other Indians. Because at this time there were a lot of raiding going on and a lot of tribes capturing other Indians.
And I'm going to ask again, do anybody got any records or receipts for Indians going to buy slaves at any time in history?
David Corey said the slaves had to be white women. That's possible. So him having 60 slaves, he ran a plantation, he built solid houses, and he used his status and favor amongst the European Americans to his favor unfairly. Yeah, I can see how he could be looked at as a suspect.
Yep.
Jay says F no. And it goes on to start. It says that he knew English well, was literate, and was experienced in the trading world also gave him influence, if not prestige. Yet, as the illiterate Creek gradually became aware of his duplicity in the Treaty of New York, 1790, and other matters, there began a process that will culminate in the Red Stick War. Not surprisingly, the struggle began in the area of Alexander McGillivray. Oh yeah, we got to get James up in here. So let's find out a little bit about Alexander's early life, shall we? He was born Hoboy Hilibiko, which basically translates to Good Child King, in the Coushatta village of Little Tallahassee, also known as Little Tallahassee or Little Talisi, and Little Tulsa on the Coosa River near present-day Montgomery, Alabama in 1750. Alexander's mother, Sehoy Marchand, was a daughter of Sehoy, a mixed-race Creek woman of the prestigious Wind clan.
You know what I'm noticing too?
That they
All
end
this
up
history
having.
we be reading,
Go ahead.
all this history that we be reading, I noticed the ones that's marked down a lot in history come from mixed families.
Mm-hmm.
I'm noticing that.
Mm-hmm. Not only that, but their mothers have prestige within the tribe. Okay,
And
come
their
from.
mothers are mixed.
Yep.
That's, so far to this point, all these dudes' mothers were mixed.
Mm-hmm. So his grandmother's name in Creek would have been Hutagalgi. And it says John Baptiste Louis de Cartel Marchand, a French officer at Fort Toulouse. Alexander and his siblings were born into the Wind clan as the Muskogee had a matrilineal system and gained their status from their mother's clan. Does this not sound so familiar? They identified as Creek. Go ahead, Bones.
That's the thing that's getting me. That when I'm listening to this, they knew how the system worked. They knew how it worked. So you can see how they used it again. Man. They knew having children with these women would entitle them to land and ownership.
Yeah. Grand Rising Antonio.
So like I'm saying, the more and more you can read, you can see the strategy that was behind this. That this ain't random. This ain't people just linking up. No, these are certain people where you can see this was planned.
Yeah, but we knew that. I mean, all this is doing is just confirming it. You know, there have been many people that were telling us about this. Yeah, so, you know, again, the Acadians have been dealing with these tribes, our tribes, for thousands of years, at least 2,000. So it's not like they didn't know our customs, they didn't know our traditions. You know, they knew, but they understood.
My question is, what side got infiltrated first?
I don't know if it was a situation of what tribe got infiltrated first, as so far as
side?
Which side? What do you mean, which side?
Because we know there were multiple players here already for multiple years.
Mm-hmm.
So, who did these new settlers infiltrate first? The ones that looked closer to them then came after us? Because if you got the Arcadians in them here for thousands of years, then that means you got lighter-skinned people as well. We're just using common sense with this right now.
Right.
So if the foreigners came, we know they came. We know there's records saying that they'll never be allowed to buy nothing in the South, do anything in the South. We know the majority of their damage that was done at this time is the North and to the West.
Right.
It seems like every place the Arcadians already was, you see this mess going down.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be easier for certain Europeans to blend in with them, to get their feet stuck in there, then start intermarrying, interbreeding with a lot more of our tribes? Because you need a way in. And if you don't look like me, you ain't getting in that easy. That still stands to this day.
And Doodle Vision says, yes, Bones, they started north and worked their way south. So, you're right. Remember, the north being Canada, Nova Scotia, whatever you want to call it, is where they came, where they started at. That's where a lot of them were living, and a lot of them were dealing with a lot of the tribes that were there up north. And one of the things I'm starting to realize too is that a lot of the tribes, they didn't stay north, they moved south during the winter. Bones said the North Gate fell first. So it was the North Gate. So it goes on to read. Go ahead, Bones. Say what you got to say.
No, I wasn't saying nothing.
It says Alexander and his siblings were born into the Wynn clan as Muskogee had a matrilineal system and gained their status from their mother's clan. They identified as Creek. Their father was Lachlan McGilvery, a Scottish trader of the clan McGilvery's chief's lineage. He built trading posts among the upper towns of the Muskogee Confederacy, whose members had formerly traded with French Louisiana. Doodle Vision said, you still have traders of the North Gate today. Yeah, we know who they are, Doodle. Antonio says, why do all my ancestors tie back to Virginia? It could be migrational, Antonio. I'm not sure. We'd have to look at it. So it goes on to read that they built his father built trading posts among the upper towns of the Muskogee Confederacy, whose members had formerly traded with French Louisiana. So this was before the Louisiana Purchase. It says, as a child, Alexander briefly lived in Augusta with his father on one of his plantations. By the time he was 12, his father owned several large plantations totaling over 10,000 acres, making him one of the largest landholders in the colony. His father was a delegate in the Colonial Assembly in Georgia and was a partner in a profitable mercantile firm that dealt in slaves among other commodities. In 1773, the boy was sent to school in Charleston, South Carolina, where he learned Latin and Greek. He was apprenticed at two trading companies, one of which was the second largest importer of slaves in Georgia. With the outbreak of the American Revolution, his loyalist father returned to Scotland and his lands were confiscated. Alexander returned to his mother's people in Little Tallahassee, 1777. So, let's get this straight. His father was the largest landowner of the colonies. And when the American Revolution broke out, his father ran to Scotland. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Doodle. That's why I said that it says the slaves was his tribe. Because if you own slaves, why would you be leaving your land to go to Scotland? Pamela Hall says his daddy was a punk. So he left his father, and Alexander ended up going back to live with his mother. Copper Color Queen says, why does this sound like northern and southern kingdoms falling in the King James Version? I don't know, Copper Color Queen. You tell us. And it says his lands were confiscated. Go ahead, Bones.
No, just being funny. Like, sounds very familiar.
I know, right? So not only did Alexander speak European English, he was learning Latin and Greek. So, I mean, this is very interesting. So with the outbreak of the American Revolution, his loyalist father returned to Scotland, and the lands were confiscated. So why would the lands be confiscated? Why would he run and leave those slaves there? Something to think about. It says, while he was accepted as a Creek because of his mother, he was deeply alienated from most Creek traditions and from the vast majority of the Creek people. He had more book learning than any other Creek, and later in life had a substantial library on natural history. This is really interesting. So let's talk a little bit
But
about his.
it leads into that isolation, that break, to where you got certain people being pushed outside of certain tribes by how they look. By no choices of their own, I'm going to say it again, no choices of their own for who their parents are and how they look.
Well, let's look at it from this perspective as well. Remember, he went to go live on one of his father's plantations, and his father sent him to a school. Now, again, this was an Indian school that the Europeans had set up to not only indoctrinate, but also to make it easier for these future chiefs to take their place and start turning over this land. Because he spoke multiple languages. And he had rights to the land because of his mother. And because of that, he was alienated, because when he came back, whether it was a year, 2 years, 3 years, or what have you, while the Muskogee were growing a tradition and doing what they was doing, getting their rights of manhood and passions of manhood, things of that nature, he come back, he 3-4 years behind. And they looking at him like, okay, who this dude? This your cousin. Okay, well, you go sit over there. We ain't dealing with you. You ain't one of us because you don't know how to do what we do. That's just, that's the way I look at it. So his career has him stated as a skillful diplomat. An early writer called him Talleyrand of the Creeks. He was an inept military strategist and rarely participated in battles. In 1783, McGillivray became the principal chief of the Upper Creek towns, or as Sant put it, established himself as spokesman for a Creek nation that seemed far more unified on paper than in reality. Isn't that how paper genocide works? His predecessor, Chief Emistigo, died while leading a war party to relieve the British garrison at Savannah, which was besieged by the Continental Army under General Mad Anthony Wayne. At one time, McGillivray claimed that he had 5,000 to 10,000 warriors to arrive, at which figure he included the Cherokee, Seminole, and Chickamaugas he came in contact with but did not rule. However, he did not live a Creek lifestyle, as he built a plantation on the Little River and a second one on the Coosa River, just above the modern Montgomery, Alabama. Stop, pause, freeze. So guess what he's doing? He's writing his memoirs to paint him in a certain light as a great chief. And because none of the Creek could read what he was writing, there's no one that could dispute it other than their oral traditions. That's what I'm saying. I could be wrong. So let's keep reading. However, however he did not live a Creek lifestyle, as he built plantation on the Little River and a second one on the Coosa River, just above modern Montgomery, Alabama. Since he built a longhouse with dormer windows and stone chimney, but all but unknown in Creek Nation. He was not only literate, he was by far the wealthiest Creek of his lifetime. Dude Vision says, yep, he was writing them out of history. So if he was doing that, isn't it also possible that the other principal chiefs were doing the same thing with their people? because they were taught to do that. You would think in these Indian schools where they were learning English, where they were learning Greek,
No,
and where they were learning Latin. Go ahead, Bones.
it's simpler than that. That's why I mentioned it a couple of minutes ago. Let's go back to children. You isolate me and you treat me a particular way on who my parents was and where I was able to go. When I come back, you still treating me a particular way. Let's be honest here. What happens when the mistreated come into power now? Let's be 100 here.
Revenge.
Because every story we read, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just saying let's deal with the facts here. Every story we read so far, we see how these people, because who their parents were treated like outcasts. So when they come back, it's no different than what any one of us would do. Hold on. Y'all done spit on me, wouldn't let me be a part of what you got going on, hold it against me. Oh, now you're finna get some payback. I'm gonna write all y'all out of history. I mean, you can start seeing the turn. You can start seeing the seeds planted to hijack it. You alienate somebody, then they get into power. Do you really think they're going to negotiate on your behalf? That doesn't happen today. And remember, these are the same people that a lot of our ancestors picked to go speak for us and on their behalf. You can see what was going to happen.
Sad but true. Sad but true. Copper Color Queen says we have to piece it all together with all the information being found. Yeah, and it starts back to one, we definitely have to keep doing the research on these tribes. Two, find your tribe so they can tell you what happened to their tribe so that you can help them. And Antonio, to answer your question, who do we trust? We have to learn to we have to earn each other's trust. Trust is not something that's given. It's something that's earned based off of actions, not words. That's the easiest way to do it. So then it goes on to read in the next paragraph, McGillivray opposed the 1783 Treaty of Augusta, under which two Lower Creek chiefs had ceded Muskogee lands from the Ogeechee to the Oconee rivers to the new state of Georgia. In June 1784, he negotiated the Treaty of Pensacola with Spain, which recognized Muskegee's sovereignty over 3 million acres of land claimed by Georgia, guaranteed access to the British Fur Trading Company, Patton Leslie Company, and made McGillivray an official representative of Spain with a $50 monthly salary. McGillivray became a partner in Patton Leslie Company and used his control over the deerskin to trade to expand his power. He was a businessman.
Mm-hmm.
So while the Lower Creek chiefs had seceded Muskogee lands from Ogeechee to Oconee rivers to the new state of Georgia, he negotiated a Treaty of Pensacola with Spain.
You see all these double and triple deals that was going on? And all the while, the people that living on the land, they none the wiser. That's the saddest part.
Yeah, so think about this. He struck a deal with Spain, had guaranteed access to the British Fur Trading Company, Patton Leslie and Company, and he had access to over 3 million acres. And the thing that's not being told, but we know for a fact, was The people that were already on those 3 million acres, they didn't know what was going on. And because they didn't know what was going on, they were just doing what they normally do. And then they get written into slaves. Doodle Vision says he was coming up off his own people. Sounds like our community and YouTube groups today. Yeah. Get money off your own people. I mean, nothing ever changes. There's nothing new under the sun. It's just different people doing the same thing differently, if that makes sense. And so now he had access to all these deer skin that he could trade with. Because think about it. This was commodity. This was their currency. Skins and fur, weapons, ammunition. It was their currency of the time. So he's got control of deer skin now. So now he can trade with different tribes and trade with Britain, trade with Spain, which made him very prominent because he had access. It says McGilvery sought Creek independence after the Treaty of Paris in 1783. He sought to create mechanisms of centralized political authority in himself, to end the traditional village autonomy by which individual chiefs had signed treaties and ceded land. Armed by British traders operating out of Spanish West Florida, the Muskogee raided backcountry European American settlers to protect their hunting grounds. It says from 1785 to 1787, Upper Creek war parties fought alongside the Cherokee in the Cherokee American Wars, which is what we're talking about presently. And this was in present-day Tennessee. In 1786, a council of the Upper and Lower Creek in Tuckabashie declared war against Georgia. The Spanish officials opposed this, and after they told McGilvery they would reduce aid if he persisted, he entered into peace talks with the U.S. Doodle says, now the Europeans aren't freezing to death. Well, I guess not. They got some furs and some deer skin. That's right, Pamela. The old sayings, the players change, but the game remains the same. Yeah. Our own people selling us out. They just do it on YouTube now. And it says, a loyalist like his father, McGilvery resented the deploying United States Indian policy, the developing United States Indian policy. However, he did not wish to leave Creek territory. McGilvery became a leading spokesman, self-appointed, for all tribes along the Florida-Georgia border areas. So how is it that he became the leading spokesperson for all the tribes along the Florida-Georgia border?
I wonder how that was.
I'm sure the fact that he had diplomatic ties, access to limitless deer skins, and he was very charismatic and good at speaking and influencing. He talked to these tribes and let him represent them because he gained their trust. And they would probably rather trust a half-breed than a full-blood European. That's just my perspective. I can be wrong. Yes, to Darian Woods, self-appointed. It says in parentheses. Exactly. He says, I'm the guy. I got you. And the tribes is like, okay. So where are we? It says Georgia's Yazoo land scandal convinced President George Washington that the federal government need to control Indian affairs rather than allowing the states to make treaties. In 1790, he sent a special emissary to the southeast who persuaded McGilvery and other chiefs to attend a conference with Henry Knox, the Secretary of War. Remember Fort Knox? Then, and also in New York City, then the capital of the U.S., the conference resulted in the Treaty of New York. For decades, Indian policy was under the oversight of the War Department. Doodle Vision says these mixed chiefs were the precursors to the Boule. Secret societies. Because we remember talking about some of the tribes up north of the Algonquin tribes. I think some of them were Mohawk. They actually did enter into secret societies. So let's take a look at this Yazoo land scandal, shall we? Hopefully you got your hard hats on. All right, Yazoo land scandal. Let's see what we dig up, good people. The Yazoo land scandal, Yazoo fraud, Yazoo land fraud, or Yazoo land controversy was a massive real estate fraud perpetuated in the mid-1790s by Georgia Governor George Matthews and the Georgia General Assembly. Georgia politicians sold large tracts of territory in the Yazoo lands in what are now portions of the present-day states Alabama and Mississippi. So at this particular time, Georgia was not only Georgia as we know it, but it was Georgia, the landmass of Alabama and Mississippi. So it says that in what are now, it says in these lands were sold to political insiders at very low prices in 1794. Okay, although the law enabling the sales was overturned by reformers the following year, its ability to do so was challenged in the courts, eventually reaching the U.S. Supreme Court. In the landmark decision in Fletcher v. Peck, 1810, the court ruled that contracts were binding and the state could not retroactively invalidate the earlier land sales. It was one of the first times the Supreme Court had overturned a state law, and it justified many claims for those lands. Some of the land sold by the state in 1794 had been shortly thereafter resold to innocent third parties, greatly complicating the litigation. In 1802, because of the ongoing controversy, Georgia ceded all of its claims to lands west of its modern border of the United States government. In exchange, the government paid cash and assumed the legal liabilities. Claims involving the land purchases were not fully resolved until legislation was passed in 1814, established a claims resolution fund. So they had to establish, first of all, they had to pay the land, pay Georgia for the land, assume legal responsibility, and create a claims resolution fund. Iron Flying Squirrel says, I'm back. I gotta rewatch this. Yeah, I'm Flying Squirrel, bro. You missed a whole lot. Put your hard hat on, bro. But Dan Wood says, man, this is what all those border war football games are really about. The best place to hide is out in the open. Exactly. So, the Yazoo land fraud is often conflated with the Pine Barren speculation, another land scandal that took place in East Georgia at about the same time. In this case, the state's high-ranking officials were making multiple gifts of land grants for the same parcels, resulting in the issuance of grants totaling much more than was available in the state of Georgia. So basically, it was selling the same land. Doodle Vision says you're working on the land, the next minute you're a slave working on the master and haven't moved nor done anything differently. Doodle Vision says high-ranking officials equal mixed chiefs. El Capitone says the Yazoo land fraud created Alabama and Mississippi. That's the way it looks. So you went to sleep in Georgia one night and woke up in either Alabama or Mississippi the next rising. So let's look at the background for this fraud. The origins of the Yazoo land scandal lay in the desire of the United States of Georgia to firm up its territorial claims after the American Revolutionary War and to satisfy a great demand for land to develop. The territory claimed by the Georgia ran as far west as Mississippi River and included most of the present states Alabama, Mississippi. Some of this territory was claimed and occupied by Native Americans, no duh. And southern portions of the territory were also claimed by Spain as part of Spanish Florida. Good grief. Lands along the Mississippi River near present-day Natchez, Mississippi, had been settled during the British administration of West Florida and had a strong loyalist presence. Some Georgia authorities and speculators thought these developed lands could be seized. David Corey says, we went to bed in Mexico and woke up in Tejas. Doodle Vision says, yes, all of it was Muskogee territory. The land jack divided us. So, previous land development attempts. The first attempt of Georgia to organize settlement in this area was 1784. Proposal to establish Holston County in the Muscle Shoals area. This attempt never got off the ground because its major proponents became involved instead in an effort to establish the state of Franklin in present-day eastern Tennessee. In 1785, Governor George Matthews signed the Bourbon County Act, which organized Bourbon County, Georgia, in the area east of the Mississippi and south of the Yazoo River. This area included the Natchez area and was in the area also claimed by Spain. The state appointed civil and judicial officers for the new county, but under pressure from the federal government, Georgia dissolved Bourbon County in 1788. The federal government opposed Bourbon County because the unresolved Spanish claim and because claims to the area by the Choctaw and Chickasaw Native American tribes had not been extinguished. Darian once said, so they just keep reselling already occupied land that was taken, appointed themselves or their kinfolk, then made us paperwork to make it stick. Yep, they still do it today. Iron Flying Squirrel said, sound like real terrorists to me. But now we're seeing why there was so much confusion and why there is so much confusion this day. And also, too, Bones, and you can vouch for this, there's still a lot of land in Georgia that's unclaimed. So, in about 1789, a secret society, here you go, called the Combined Society was formed. The members' sole purpose was to make money by land speculation. This group secured influence in the Georgia legislature to further its claims. In 1789, 3 companies, the South Carolina Yazoo Company, the Virginia Yazoo Company, which was headed by Patrick Henry, and the Tennessee Company were formed by combined society interests to buy land from the Georgia legislature. Governor Edward Telfair signed a deal to sell 20 million acres of land to the Yazoo companies. Okay, 20 million acres of land to the Yazoo companies for $207,000, or about 1 cent per acre. 1 cent per acre. These lands were located north of the mouth of the Yazoo River and extended eastward from the Mississippi. The deal fell through in 1792 when the company sought to pay with depreciated old currency, which the state refused to accept. The existence of the combined society was also exposed in 1792. Some of its principles continue to be active in attempts to develop Georgia lands. Yes, 1 cent per acre. And you're right, Jay. They still building in Georgia. So here's the deal. There was a secret society created, and that secret society worked with the Georgia legislation to buy 20 million acres of land for pennies on a dollar and then hold it to resell it. The problem was they sought to pay with depreciated old currency. Because you got to remember, this time there isn't a single currency. Each state had its own currency. So, Darian Woods says, sounds like I'm going to have a fight on my hands to get my people. 411, they all from Tennessee, and a lot never left there. Well, the fight depends on what mechanism or what vehicle you use. At the end of the day, if you have land, the first thing you have to do is get access to those land deeds. Once you get access to those land deeds, then your fight becomes easier. The next game they'll play, and this is something that Doodle Vision is dealing with, just like a lot of other people, is any remaining relatives that you have alive have to all sign off on that land, or it'll make it very difficult. Doodle Vision says, now we're getting to the collapse of the federal bank. Jay Sasquan says, I'm right here watching it go down. So, if it wasn't for the depreciated old currency, this deal would have gone through. Just keep that in mind. So, let's talk about the repeal of the sale. Okay, Yazoo land sales. In 1794, 4 new companies were formed. Georgia Company, the Georgia Mississippi Company, the Upper Mississippi Company, and the New Tennessee Company. Their principles included individuals active in 1789. They said their principles included individuals active in the 1789 purchases, as well as leading Georgia politicians such as James Gunn and United States Supreme Court Associate Justice James Wilson. These companies persuaded the Georgia State Assembly to sell more than 40 million acres of land for $500,000. Many Georgia officials and legislatures were offered shares in these companies or bribes to secure their agreement for the sale. On January 7, 1795, Governor Matthews signed into law a bill authorizing the sale of 40 million acres, known as the Yazoo Act. The territory that was the subject of these purchases included most of the land that had been the subject of the 1789 purchase attempt and a significant portion of it was resold to buyers in other parts of the country who were not aware of the shaky nature of the transactions. So they are involving Supreme Court Associate Justices. Greed is a hell of a drug. So the repeal of the sale, let's talk about that. Because remember, these transactions were shaky. And you having someone that's an associate justice of the Supreme Court who could be influential in overturning the decision if they had to go to the Supreme Court. So, when the details of the sale were revealed, public outrage was widespread and people protested to federal officials and congressmen. Jared Irwin and U.S. Senator James Jackson led the reform efforts. Irvin was elected governor of Georgia and less than 2 months after taking office, signed a bill on February 13, 1796, nullifying the Yazoo Act. The state burned all copies of the bill except for one that had been sent to President George Washington. Jackson resigned as senator to run for office as next governor of Georgia. He was elected and took office 2 years later. But the matter was not over. The state refunded money to persons who had purchased the land, but some refused the money, preferring to keep the land. The state did not recognize their claims, and the matter was to wind through courts for the next decade. In 1802, the state ceded to the federal government all claim to the land west of its present border, which were organized into Mississippi Territory. Along with the ongoing legal disputes, claims by third-party owners who had innocently purchased land from the original companies were not fully resolved until 1816. Spanish claims to the Georgia Territory were resolved with the 1795 Treaty of San Lorenzo. Native American claims to the area were extinguished by a series of treaties ending in the 1820s. Legal challenges to Georgia's attempt to repeal the sale reached the Supreme Court in 1810. The landmark Fletcher v. Peck decision marked one of the first times a court overturned a state law, deciding that the land sales were binding contracts that could not be retroactively invalidated by passage of superseding legislation. Could it be because more than one person was sitting on that Supreme Court? I don't know. Pine Barren speculation. During the same period in what was called the Pine Barren speculation, the governors and legislature of Georgia made overlapping land grants in the eastern part of the state, effectively granting 3 times more land than existed in the state. Although land grants were supposed to be limited to 1,000 acres per individual, the state awarded multiple grants of 1,000 acres to certain people. So,
I wonder what them qualifications were.
all this having politicians in your back pocket and making the businesses set up in trust more transparent, all culminated and came to a head in the 1910 Antitrust Act. But we see how all this got started in the late 1700s, leading all the way until the early 1900s, when the oil barons started squeezing out competition. So that was a Yazoo land scandal.
Wait a minute, and that's just one. Can you imagine how many more?
Yeah, I can only imagine. But here's the funny thing. The federal government took the land from the state and created two states and basically screwed the Indians out of the land.
Yep.
Because they could have gave it back to the Indians, but they didn't. It's a thought. So the biggest thieves were the federal government, because they had authority to give the land back, but they didn't do that. They took Georgia and broke it up into 3 states: Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia. You're talking about 40 million acres of land taken from the tribes, and treaties were signed because that land wasn't even ceded; it was stolen, and the tribes didn't even have any say so.
Most of them, it'll be years before they knew, especially with tribes that got migration patterns where they're leaving areas for 10 years. You got so much land, it could be anywhere from 10 to 20, 30 years by the time you come back. You get back to your land, there's a whole new town sitting there.
Yep, sitting right where your longhouse or your territory used to be, or where your hunting grounds used to be, because they did a lot of that. James says that's the same stunt they pulled with the Louisiana Purchase.
Well, how much land was sold from Indians that didn't own the land? Tribes were selling other tribes' land.
Yep, because they knew their migration patterns, and they were actually the principal chiefs that was doing it, aka Alexander Gillivray and Joseph Brant. Go ahead.
How many we done seen sold the same piece of land to 3 different entities? The same piece of land to 3 different people.
Mm-hmm.
It would make sense if you're dealing with a culture that never believed in owning land and ownership of nature. So these are things by default they wouldn't be checking for.
Right. Interesting. So let's see. Where did we start? So I'm back on the Cherokee American Wars. I'll put the link in the chat for y'all.
And Grand Rising to whoever just came on. Peace.
I think it's Carrie. He said he's gonna be listening in.
All right. Grand Rising, Carrie.
Peace, peace, peace.
That don't sound like Carrie. Who it is?
No, it's A1. It's Sanchez one.
Hey, peace A1. How you doing this rising?
I'm doing good, bro. I just came on. I actually sent y'all notification on YouTube, and I seen what y'all got up. Just some good history right here, man. Just especially right now, you got people fighting for reparations, and they don't even know about this. They think the land was stolen from them as Africans or as freed slaves. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely good. This is I like this type of bill. So I'm just gonna mute my mic. How do I mute it?
Just you can hit what is it? You can if you're on your phone, you should be able to hit the mute. If not, I can mute it for you.
Okay. All right.
All right, so I can mute it for you if you're not able to mute it.
You
Nah,
got it,
I'm
Ken.
muted on. Well,
Oh,
I'm muted on my phone.
okay, yeah, just yeah. If you mute it on your phone, it'll mute it.
All right, no problem.
All
Okay,
right.
I was going to keep it.
Appreciate you dropping in with us this rising too. Grand Rising James.
He'll be on in a minute.
Oh yeah. Grand Rising to Brother Thomas, Brother Bones, Brother A1's in the camp, all those that are in the chat. It's on and popping. Let's go.
All right. So now we're at the Cherokee American Wars, and we're talking about. Hold on. See, that's what happens. Where we at? Oh, Alex McGilvery. It says, Cherokee continued to migrate westward to join Dragging Canoe's militant band. Many in this influx were Cherokee from North Georgia, who fled the depredation, of expeditions such as those of Sevier. A large majority of those were former inhabitants of the original lower towns. Cherokee from the middle, or hill, towns also came, a group of whom established a town named Sauty, or Totsti, at the mouth of South Sauta Creek on the Tennessee. Later, major settlements included Whalestown, or Titsulhilly, near the later Fort Payne, or Turkeytown. At the head of the Cumberland Trail, where the Upper Creek Path crossed the Coosa River near Century, Alabama, Creek Path, near at the intersection of the Great Indian Warpath with the Upper Creek at the modern Guntersville, Alabama, Turniptown, 7 miles from the present-day Rome, Georgia, and Chattooga, nearer the site of Rome, Georgia, that is. Partly because of the large influx from North Georgia, added the fact that they were no longer occupying the Chickamauga area as their main center, Dragging Canoe's followers and others in the area began to refer to as the Lower Cherokee, The ranks of these new Lower Cherokee were further swelled by runaway slaves, White Torres, Tuskegee, Yuchi, Natchez, and Shawnee, plus a few Spanish, French, Irish, and Germans. The town Cusata came into the coalition with the Coasati and the Kaskinapu inhabitants joined Dragging Canoe's coalition. The band of Chickasaw living at Dido's Landing south of Huntsville, Alabama, also joined the coalition. The rest of the Chickasaw, however, were trying to play the Americans and the Spanish against each other with no interest in the British.
Wait. You have to go back. These runaway slaves were from where?
White Torres, Muskogee, Yuchi, Natchez, and Shawnee, plus a few Spanish, French, Irish, and Germans.
Doesn't sound like West African to me. Go ahead, I'm sorry. I'm it's getting good today. Now you on the mic.
That's crazy.
What they get said the slaves was Germans and other Indians as well.
Yep.
You said it was Europeans, right? Yeah, I mean, yeah, but that's exactly that's the reason why. Like even when you see Bacon rebelling, see they telling us that they reconstructed this whole story, and we have to find ourselves to go back and unravel this shit by bit by bit by bit, and that's what's happening, man. Because the what you reading don't make up with what we're being told. Now, if somebody else reading it, they're gonna assume that just upon saying the word slave itself, oh, these Africans. They ain't even gonna say that they was Indians. They're gonna automatically designate them to Africans. And that's, you know what I'm saying. That's what. But look at when the war was. Look when the Cherokee War was. It was the same time as the American Revolutionary War, right?
Yep. 1776 to 1795. So depending on who's telling the story, will depict on who's titling the war.
It ain't the Revolutionary War, it's the Cherokee War. They're lying about it. They just adding a bunch of events that happen. And see, all the events that's happening is that they're trying to take the land, and people was fighting against that. So all these wars are breaking out throughout these 13 colonies, or throughout wherever the Europeans trying to settle it. You know what I'm saying? That's why you got numerous wars going on in 1776. But if you can find documentation, and it particularly said the Cherokee War. And then, like I said, what happened after that? See, all of the Cherokee chiefs they show you are after the 1800s, because what they did was to make a treaty with a lot of the ones that sold out dragging canoe and the Chickamauga. They had to mix it with the tribes. That's what happened. Then they allowed a lot of them motherfuckers to become the chiefs, and then what they did was sell the tribes out, or sell the clans out to the federal government, and the federal government took the land. So that's why in most cases, like you find John Ross, a lot of these people was murdered. What's the other guy named? I can't think of his name right now. McKinney. Hold on, is it McKinney? I can't think of his name right now, but he was murdered too. He sold the tribes out. And you see it going on and on and on. And a lot of cases, what a lot of people missing is the fact that you had people go to Oklahoma, and these are the people who went to Oklahoma. Most people think accounts for the majority of the so-called Indians that was in the South. This is what we're being told. No, the majority of Indians stayed behind and just said, you know what? They had fear of being sent to Oklahoma if they continue to be an Indian. So they took the classification of colored and Negro. So,
like we said, cases that a lot of the Indians that stayed by default became citizens and didn't even know. Especially like with Mississippi, all of them became citizens when the dude sold them out.
That's right. But you had some of them, remember, we was the farmers. So a lot of people had contracts with these Europeans. You understand what I'm saying? So you had certain people that was neutral who was benefiting from it, like you see now, and you had certain people who were in disagreement to it, are not being compensated or benefiting from it by just knowing the history and seeing that the shit is wrong. Like he had said, the federal government took the land. They could have gave. They wasn't going to give it back to them. Well, what do you think? What do you think they came in for? The land is the money. That's how they was making their money. That's how they built the companies, from selling the land to people over there and letting them come over here, along with the crops that they had here that they was trading. And then, they had to pay our ancestors that was doing a lot of it, because the Europeans wasn't cropping them. They wasn't bringing nobody else here to crop them, because how the European going to teach them to do something they don't know how to do? And they tell you our economics with the farmers. So when did we just start farming? From 1865 until what, the early 1900s? Or was we been doing that? Because if you got Benjamin Banneker, who made the almanac, obviously we was already looking at the different. I don't really believe in fucking planets and all that shit. I believe that the Earth is flat, but I do believe that there's certain ways you can tell through the soul. Through like how do you call that? Cosmology. You know what I'm saying? To where you can tell, like the sun, for example. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people, like even in Mexico, like, they map the sun out. And this is how they was making a lot of the calendars according to the sun. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's definitely interesting. I don't mean to take it off topic, but it's definitely an interesting bill, man. I'm just gonna mute my mic.
Also, we want to remind everyone that this is a kid-friendly show. So
Family friendly. Yeah, A1. I was trying to catch a couple of times. CMH, where is the button? The beep, beep,
we
beep.
don't we don't we don't have one of the buttons.
Well, we need one clearly. A1. Yeah, this is a family friendly show. Just a reminder, if you can pull out some of them words, them weekend words. I'm gonna call them evening words.
Oh, the touch words. All right, my bad.
Nah, yeah, you good.
Okay.
So at the end of the
Just
day,
everybody in the chat.
at the end of the day, what we're seeing the kidnapping of our story. We're seeing the transplantation of the chiefs, which we were instrumental in helping it happen. Because as we're seeing, especially from the northern tribes moving all the way down into some of the Muskogee, the Acadians, their soldiers, their chief soldiers, the ones that have prominence, are actually having sons by these prominent women in the tribes that are the decision makers that choose the chiefs. So we're just as guilty, if not more so. And then on top of that, the tribes themselves elect these individuals to do the speaking on their behalf. So,
Yeah, believing because they look more Europeanized, they'll get better deals.
not realizing that the great hijack, if you will, is being committed because at the end of the day, these chiefs were being ostracized because they would go to their father's plantation and go to school and then come back a couple of years later. And even though they were behind in the skill sets of Indian ways, they were further advanced in the art of European diplomacy, aka thievery. And we'll leave it at that. So, where are we at? We're talking about the multi-ethnic slaves that joined the Cherokee. And we're going to read it again. It says, the ranks of these new lower Cherokee were further swelled by runaway slaves, white Tories, Muskogee, Yuchi, Natchez, and Shawnee, plus a few Spanish, French, Irish, and Germans. Now notice, Africans are missing. I'm just saying. Doodle Vision said these tribal chiefs got Sammy Sosa. Sosa, you wrong for that, bro. So it says later, major settlements included Willstown, near the later Fort Payne Turkey Town, at the head of the Cumberland Trail, where the Upper Creek Path crossed Coosa River near central Alabama. Creek Path near the intersection of Great Indian Warpath with the Upper Creek Path at the modern Guntersville, Alabama, Turnip Town, 7 miles from the present-day Rome, Georgia, and Chattooga near the site of Rome. And it says partly because of a large influx of North Georgia added to the fact that they were no longer occupying the Chickamauga area as their main center, Dragging Canoe's followers and others began to be referred to as the Lower Creek. So we've already read that. So let's talk about the Cherokees in the north, shall we?
Let's do it.
In November 1782, 20 representatives from 4 northern tribes, the Wyandot, Ojibwa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi, traveled south to consult with Dragging Canoe and his lieutenants at his nephew's headquarters in Running Water Town, which was nestled far back up the hollow from the Tennessee River onto which it opened. Their mission was to gain the help of Dragging Canoe's Cherokee in attacking Pittsburgh and the American settlers in Kentucky and the Illinois country. When the party returned north, Turtle at Home, brother of Dragging Canoe, took 70 warriors north to fight alongside the Shawnee. So now they're starting to do raids in Pittsburgh and in settlements in Kentucky and Illinois. So let's check out this turtle at home, who is a brother of Dragon Canoe. Who is he? I put it in the chat.
You said who was Dragon Canoe, brother?
Yeah, I wanna see what they say about him.
What was his name?
His name is Turtle at Home. That's a European name. So I'll put the link in the chat, and I'm gonna read this this reference that they give. It says articles include a list of references related reading to external link, but its sources remain unclear because it lacks inline citations. So bear in mind that there is some questions about the references. The sources at Wikipedia are at the bottom, so you can always check the sources. So Turtle at Home or Silakuki Wohelian Silakuki Wohelian was a Cherokee warrior and leader, brother of Chief Lieutenant of Dragon Canoe, a war chief in the Cherokee American Wars. In the beginning and later years, he led Chickamauga Cherokee war parties against the over mountain settlements on the Holston, Nolichucky, Watauga, and Doe Rivers in Martin, East Tennessee, and against the Cumberland River, the settlements that were near Fort Nashboro in Middle Tennessee. After the second destruction of the Chickamauga towns in 1782, instead of moving to the 5 lower towns with his brother and the rest of the Chickamauga Lower Cherokee, he and his band of about 70 warriors headed north to the Kentucky area to fight alongside the Shawnee allies, which is what we were just talking about. Then it goes on to say Turtle at Home and his band remained in the north until after 1791 Battle of Wabash during the Northwest Indian War, in which he and his warriors, along with 2 parties brought north separately by his brothers, Little Owl and the Badger, they both participated. In that battle, the combined forces of the Shawnee leader Blue Jacket and Miami leader Little Turtle delivered the single worst defeat ever inflicted upon the U.S. States military by American Indians. Only 48 of Arthur St. Clair's 1,000 troops escaped harm. 623 of those 1,000 were killed outright. After that battle, Turtle at Home returned south with his brother, although his men stayed behind. In 1792, he, the Glass, had just returned from the successful raid of the Cumberland River settlements in Kentucky when his oldest brother returned from his embassies to the other southern tribes successful with the Choctaw and Lower Muskogee. The Upper Muskogee had been allies for years. Though unsuccessful with the Chickasaw, after an all-night celebration at Lookout Mountain Town, now Trenton, Georgia, Dragon Canoe died. John Watt succeeded him. So I just wanted to give people a perspective of who this Turtle at Home, the brother of Dragon Canoe, was, so they can greatly appreciate his being asked to come north to help the Shawnee, because obviously he had to be a great warrior, or they wouldn't have came down to come get him. So now we're going back to Cherokee American Wars, and we are looking at the last paragraph before the Georgia Indian War of 1782. It says, at the beginning of 1783, there were at least 3 major communities of Cherokee in the region. One lived among the Shalagotha, Shawnee. The second Cherokee community lived among the mixed Wyandotte Mingo towns on the upper Mad River near the Zanesfield, Ohio. A third group of Cherokee is known to have lived among and fought with the Muncie Lenape, the only portion of the Lenape Nation at war with the Americans. Though filled by different warriors, shifted back and forth, these 3 bands remained in the Northwest until after the Treaty of Greenville in 1795. And it basically goes to speak to what Atanchis one and many others have always said. We've always been at war. Well, we've always been battling. If not each other, the Europeans. To be specific, if not the English, the Spanish. If not the Spanish, the French. If not them, the Germans. but we've always been battling somebody, or been battling on behalf of somebody. So we haven't experienced any serious consecutive years of peace. Grand Rising, James Gilmore. Hope everything's going well.
Peace, peace. Glad you caught that cab this rising.
So
Yeah, that's deep. So just to see, they don't want to admit it. So they put all this history out there, and then think people can't read or don't have an understanding to what happened or what took place. Because see, they tell you that most of the Indians are the ones in Oklahoma, and they just the other ones was assimilated, so they don't even count them no more. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much what's going on, and that's been what's going on. You know what I'm saying? When they classify you as colored and Negro, but that's it right there. They got too much evidence telling you that. You know what I'm saying? That they classify. They got the census report to the marshals, the instructions to the census to the marshals on how to classify Indians that's taxed as colored. Who the fuck is the colored people? Like it's not a mystery. It's not even a mystery. We know we've been colored. They never called us black. They always called us colored, and they called us Negro. That's it. Other than that, they started classifying us black, I believe, after the 1960s.
1920 was the first time they bought black on the census for us.
But did you ever see that even when the Jim Crow shit was going on? I'm sorry, even when the Jim Crow was going on at its height, everything you seen had color on it. It never said nothing about no black.
Nope.
Everything said colored only, color this, color that, color the Negro League, or this, that, and the third. You know what I'm saying? That's all, and they know they was classifying Indians as Negroes. Why would you classify Indian as a Negro if you don't look nothing like one?
Mm-hmm.
Unless people who was all here was what we considered to be melanated people, and then you do all of them in one lump term, and we assumed that it meant the complexion of the skin. No, it meant that the servitude you conquered. Why you think the Spanish always use the term conquest, conquistador, or conquer, conquered people? You throw that term on Negro too. You know what I'm saying? That nobody else is called Negro. The people, the Indians in Oklahoma ain't called Negroes. And that's the reason why a lot of us can't even get on a lot of them, the Dawes Roads. How you gonna get on the Dawes Roads if you was in Virginia? You ain't know nothing about the roads. How you gonna get on the roads if you was in Tennessee or in any of these other countries, other states, or whatever? How you gonna get on the roads? How you gonna get on the Dawes Roads if you didn't know nothing about it? So that eliminates millions of people from even getting the opportunity to, you know what I'm saying? And then you got to find an ancestor who was there, because basically they saying the people who went there. I see that the way I'm looking at it too. I wouldn't even want to be on their roads, because them people is the people who went on the Trail of Tears. We stayed behind, so we are in our natural place, so we can continue doing what we do prior to anything. So I mean, definitely, and most people. If you ask them, most people say they Cherokee. That's what most people say, they Cherokee. I mean, out of all of, I guess in my area where I'm at, you know what I'm saying? Maybe when I go out different areas, it's going to be different tribes, of course. I haven't heard one person in New Jersey say they Lenni Lenape yet, besides Turtle Gang and people who under his tribe. I haven't met no Ramapo Indian. I mean, and I'm in Jersey, and a lot of these tribes like the Lenni Lenape, the Ramapo, most everybody I meet say they Cherokee or Seminole or Black, but the majority is Cherokee. That's the majority by far.
Yeah, because they adopted, what was that, last week? We read the records where the Cherokee adopted thousands of different people into the tribe.
Yeah, they did it for numbers. That's the reason why they're the wealthiest. They're the wealthiest nationally recognized tribe. Well, excuse me, federally recognized tribe because of their numbers. And that was the reason why the census was important for resources and numbers. And the reason why many of our ancestors were written out was because at the end of the day, the states wanted the land to be able to tax people. That was the reason why they were allowing the immigrants to come on, and they were allowing the residents who were already mixed to start squatting on these lands, and then have the surveyors work in conjunction to create these borders, because they needed the land to tax the people that were coming here so they could pay for the wars that they were borrowing money from these other countries. And because the Indians were not taxed, they had to get them off the land. So,
or they just the ones that wasn't. Oh yeah, you're right. So, like you said, so if you stayed behind and claimed that you was an Indian, chances were they took you to Oklahoma. So a lot of us just said we went under the color, and we went under color because at that point in time, but a lot of us thought after the Civil War, we can remain and claim that we was Indian again. And they say all these people in the South claiming to be Indians, and I assume, because I can't find no records of what happened to the 1890 record. They said it was burnt. So why was it burnt? And then why would later on they come with this other classification and classifying everybody as that?
And look at when it was burnt, during the years of Reconstruction. How convenient.
That's right. Because if people knew in the 1900s they was Indians, they knew that in the 1800s. They was tricked into being they falsely classified, man. Like they was falsely classified and tricked into becoming United States citizens, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
too many people are cool.
It's simple and think about what happened at the 1890s and top of the 1900s. They start coming out with particular programs, but you can only get access to certain programs unless you're under a particular status. So it would make some people easily pick up the colored status, because under Indian, staying in the South, you're not getting no resources. There's no programs designed for you.
But you know what though? Remember too, a lot of our people was still farming, because my father told me they had a farm and shit. I'm sorry, my bad. They had a farm in the South, and they was eating off the farm. A lot of people, I guess they adapted that ways once they got really settled. You know what I'm saying? But we don't know what was going on at that period of time, man, because you got the KKK running around. You know what I'm saying? At that point in time, things was kind of crazy. But yeah, like you said, most people was used to living in their clans, or however we had it set up, man. The cities or whatever we had set up to where it was food all the time or whatever. Once they come in and destroy that, and then make your people subjected to come under this status or come under this so-called corporation, most of them Indians were starving outside, and they had to live in the wild. That's why Andrew Jackson clearly said that. He said to the children of the the children of the woods, he said, it's going to either be assimilation or extermination. And he said assimilation is what it is. And the assimilated ones, he also said that if you give us jurisdiction, you can stay. If not, you got to go. And what you got to go means, go to Oklahoma.
Yep.
This is Andrew Jackson mouth saying this. You understand what I'm saying? And that's I caught that, and I felt like them was key sayings, because now it gives you an understanding to what really happened. You understand? There's too many people with Jackson last name for him to be doing all this with the so-called Indians and not have no Indian slaves. All these slaves, it's too much going on for him to be getting African slaves. No, these are people of the people they slaughtering, that he's taking back with him and making them his damn kids, or putting them into, you understand what I'm saying? Because I read too that Andrew Jackson, because a lot of the mothers was killing their children so they wouldn't be taken by them, and a lot of times, Andrew Jackson was able to save the children and take the children back with them. So there's definitely a lot of things going on. People got to really understand what key part Jefferson, Washington, and Jackson played, as well as Lincoln.
Yep, that's why they created these boarding schools. But gentlemen, if you don't mind, if I could go back, because we were mentioning about the census and the records being burned. What if I told you that I came across the 1890 census and the breaking down? I'm just going to read a little segment, and then I'm going to yield the mic.
Now, please do, go ahead.
It says, these are the surveyors and the enumerators, which were the census takers. And it said a serious difficulty was met in the answer to "Are you an Indian?" Under the laws of the 5 tribes and nations of the Indian Territory, a person white in color and features is frequently an Indian, being so by remote degree of blood or by adoption, saying that these white people that are claiming to be Indian have a little bit of Indian blood. See what's happening today? Or they were adopted in. They are not Indians by blood. Then it goes on to say, said there are many whites now residing, claiming to be Indians, whose claims have not yet been acted upon by the nations, saying that they are just white people living in the land claiming to be Indian. Then he goes on to say, or they go on to say, Negroes are frequently met who speak nothing but Indian languages. This is 1890. I'm going to say that again.
Man, say that one more time, please, man.
Negroes are frequently met who speak nothing but Indian languages and are Indians by tribal law and custom.
To add on to what you're saying, now fast forward to 1906 when the others go to Congress and complain about us because there's too many melanated Indians and they wanted us removed so they can control the vote. It's all lining up.
Yeah.
That's why we speak Ebonics, because English is our second language. So up until then and after that, we were still speaking our native tongue. I yield the mic. Go ahead, brother A1.
You know what? I'm sorry, but you think about it too. Remember, a lot of people think about how Negroes talk in the South. Think about how they remember how they was talking in the early, like they be like, they had these crazy ways of how they was talking. We thought they was illiterate, but they was always speaking there, and they was always speaking the Ebonics that we always spoke, or how we knew how to communicate with each other. But he's right, because remember in North Carolina, the Wilmington race riots, they said the Wilmington race riots was because they was trying to bring in Democrats, and most black people was voting Republican, and this was around like the early 1900s. But it also dealt with, like you said, that they was trying to bring, because we was voting one particular way. So they was trying to bring in new people to genderify so they can change the vote. And this is what they've been doing this shit. This is what they doing now. They're doing this now, but listen, bro. And I'm just saying, like, listen, some people, you got human rights issues with certain things. I look at it like, who was here prior to Europeans coming here? There was not none of these Mongoloid people in the South like that, and it's obvious because we don't see them. You don't see them nowhere. None of these pictures in the old. You only see them in Oklahoma. So obviously, it was only white and black people here. So for people to migrate here on the premise that white people took the land, You know what I'm saying? To come here and think they got rights to come here, and we can sit there like, yeah, they do. And when we had control of this shit, we wasn't letting people come over here like that. And that's something people don't clearly understand. We was not letting people come over here like that.
Yeah, there's records of the chiefs of the South saying that they would never sell land to Europeans in the South, and anyone caught selling land to the Europeans in the South would be executed.
See? Huh? So they already know, but it's not just Europeans, man. It's other people out there. Remember, at the end of the day, this whole thing is about a race for resources, man. That's why people come here. They come here to race for resources, bro. That's it. You ask people, well, what do you come here for? I came here for a job. Well, what do jobs provide? Oh, better resources. Oh, okay. All right, we understand. So that's why I go hard like I go hard, because I know people don't come here to help us. And they come here to try to be like you. As long as you in that mind state to where everything is just partying and oh yeah, we having fun and oh that's my friend, he's from this country, and not knowing this nigga's elite. You came here, your country couldn't provide for you, but you flagging every day. I see you every day with your flag, happy about your country. Well, if your country can't provide what it's supposed to provide for you, then you shouldn't be so optimistic about it. And then you come here and brag about this shit to us, and brag about it to us and make us feel like, oh man. And then we think we already think we Africans. So we like, oh man, I wish we knew what the motherland was like, and you don't even know this is yours right here. Don't even know it, and they come in here wanting yours.
Well, here's the thing, A1, that a lot of people don't know, is that now it's a situation of, there's talk of reparations and things of that nature. But what people don't know, because either they don't read or they just take people's word for it, is that the reason why a lot of these immigrants are coming over here is because they are still being encouraged by the United States to come over here to get access to our resources. Now, depending on what side of the fence you on, not you in particular, but you in general, people are under the impression that we can't thrive in this system as it exists. If that was the case, we wouldn't have had Negro Wall Streets all over the United States, which basically means there is no way that we can't thrive. So with that being said, the reason why Atante's Assembly is promoting helping everybody get their businesses started is to actually access the resources that was intended for since 1968, which a lot of people, for whatever reason, poo-poo or don't see any relevance in. But at the end of the day, how is it that there are so many foreigners in our neighborhoods running businesses? It's because those resources are ours and we're not made aware of those resources, i.e. HUD Section 3, Section 9, and other sections. Because if you go into their neighborhoods, those stores don't exist. So the question that needs to be asked is, why not? Well, because they don't get subsidized for catering to their own people. They get subsidized for catering to us. How is it that you can have a Mercedes-Benz stadium in the middle of the hood of Atlanta, which is basically a $2.5 billion building, that's subsidized under Section 3? Arthur Bland is not an Indian, but because he's servicing the community and providing jobs, he is allowed to tap into that money. And that's what people don't realize. So the resources are no longer the quote-unquote land, as you will. The resources is the actual currency that's being pushed through these nonprofits and these for-profits. Is this the best way to do it? No, I'm not going to say it's the best way. Is it a good way to do it? I would say so. And
that's right.
What most people got to realize is if you have what was originally called the PIH codes, and it says public Indian houses, and as we all know, the Native Americans have been on reservations since the 1700s. And on those reservations, they have their houses. So if Native Americans have their houses on the reservations, who are the Indians that HUD's talking about?
Let that marinate. Just let that marinate.
And that's
dealing with the Fair Housing Act, though, right?
Exactly. That's exactly. Exactly.
Well, who burnt down their cities and needed that?
The thing about it is that the Fair Housing Act has been in place since 1968. Those monies are available in every state, every county, and every city. We just don't know about it. The only section we know about is Section 8. And as LJ Free always says, numbers were discovered, not invented. So if there's a Section 8, why is no one talking about Sections 1 through 7? And the section update.
Real quick, hold on. I ain't never going to that shit. I mean, I'm sorry. I ain't even curse. I only curse when I get excited.
I know. It's all good.
I never caught on to that. You said so based on currently Section 8 was made for us, right?
Section 8 is the one that we are pointed to. All of HUD
No,
is...
no. But hold. Let me just, I want to just clarify.
Okay.
Section 8, in which women get Section 8, which is public assistance for housing, and they go basically income based. A lot of people think Section 8 is free housing. Nah, you can have a good job and still get Section 8. You know what I'm saying?
That wasn't designed for us. Section 8 was designed for theirs. We have 3. Like they said before, we know of Section 8, but what about the 7 before 8? Nobody talks about a Section 1, a Section 2, a Section 3, a Section 4. Like I said,
what's that? What is that? That's in the Fair Housing Act, right?
Yeah, it's in the Fair Housing Act. Is what Martin Luther King marched for. It's what his speech was about. It's the check that he talked about going to get that he might never get the cash, but it's there for us to cash. The problem is foreigners are taught about it when they come here and they get nationalized. They're taught about these systems. We're not taught about them. You can go to HUD.gov and right on the website, it tells you it's public information. It's PIH, Public Indian Housing. What King marched for was PIH, Public Indian Housing.
But many of us are propagating or promoting for whatever reason that's not something that we want to adhere to. You don't want to adhere to 501c. You don't want to adhere to any of these nonprofits because they're totally owned by the government, which is totally not true. Because I have yet to this day found anybody who can argue the 501c6 entity known as the NFL. If the government owned and controlled all 501c's, how is it that Tom Brady had to sit out 3 games when he was threatening to take it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, we will not look at this because you already have a system in place? They wouldn't even look at it. So if all 501c's are controlled specifically and exclusively by the government, they would have had jurisdiction. The reason why the government don't have jurisdiction is because if your 501c is set up right and you're minding your business, they don't have to.
Bingo.
Yeah,
but when you don't mind it, go ahead, James. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'll give you another one here recently with Ezekiel Elliott that plays for the Cowboys. His case was thrown out in a court of law because his ex-girlfriend lied and said that he beat her up. Everyone that was there, it was other people that escorted her out. They were never in contact with each other. The courts threw it out, and he got suspended 6 games. And it was nothing the courts could do. He kept fighting it and fighting it and fighting it and fighting it. The owner, Jerry Jones, kept helping him to fight it and fight it and fight it. And ultimately, it was Roger Goodell that made the decision. He was exonerated in a court of law. The NFL found him guilty. He still had to sit out 6 games. So that right there within itself ought to tell you and what they're doing and how they are doing it. But again, we keep fighting this fight as individuals and we're not being tribal at all.
Brother James,
You
you don't mind me asking you real quick? Basically, you're very well knowledgeable on this because you have over 20 years of experience working with these mechanisms. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. Just about all my adult life.
So at the end of the day, what it boils down to is there are mechanisms that we have access to that if we tapped into, then we could not only help ourselves, our community, but if we chose to, we can help those melanated tribes that are not able to be self-sufficient. Is that correct?
That's interesting, bro. Now, I never looked at that like that. That's why I came on.
That's what we do at the Tontonist Assembly. We formed it to take advantage of these mechanisms to help the Indian and the tribes become self-sufficient.
So that's public Indian. You said
Housing.
public Indian housing.
Public Indian housing. You know it now as HUD.
HUD only build houses in the ghetto. Why? Nah, but you know what though? Phoenix Moon touched on this before. She touched on it and she said that how after King got killed, he said that Lyndon B. Johnson said them Indians is going crazy. You better give them what they asked for. Listen. And that's another thing too. I just wanted to just make a point with that. Right? The only reason why the Democrats gave us what we wanted because we made them give them because we was rioting, we was tearing this shit up. That's why they gave it to us. They ain't give it to us because they wanted to. They didn't have no choice but to give it to us.
And change the names over years, so we're not aware that these mechanisms even exist, and they're benefiting from them.
And unlike the riots that happened after the Rodney King verdict, the riots in the 60s, they were choreographed. They were orchestrated. See, now we just wild. That's why I said the difference between a bunch of individuals. And let me put this disclaimer out there. Let me say this. I am not promoting you go out and start riots. I'm going to say that because somebody's probably going to take the clip and say, Doodoo Vision, a.k.a. James Flame, said we can go out here and riot. Not saying that. I'm saying that it was orchestrated and the draft of the Civil Rights Act had been sitting on President LBJ's desk. Long before the assassination, he didn't want to sign it. It was after the assassination and the riots took place, he was like, whoa, that's why it happened so quickly. It had been sitting on his desk. Go back and see the date when Dr. Martin Luther King said, we're going to get our check. That was before that, long before that. It was already drafted. Yeah. They had already had discussion.
Yeah, they had multiple already at that time.
They was holding out. And then people see more. And then see what they don't want to. What a lot of these Democrats don't want to mention is that's the reason why we voted Democrats, because they gave us that. And then they didn't give you that shit. They didn't give it to you because they was nice. They gave it to you because of what happened after they killed King.
And what did they say? If we give them something, we'll have them voting Democratic for the next 200 years.
That's right. And now, think about it now. At all of the programs that was made for us, they bringing these immigrants and they giving it to them.
Well, here's
Yep.
And we're saying don't take advantage of it. And when I say we, I'm saying you hear these different venues out there and YouTube channels say don't take advantage of it. And the immigrants that are coming over are calling us stupid and lazy and ignorant, saying, why aren't you taking advantage of it? We came up.
We don't know about it, though. We don't know about it.
But it's those of us that are saying it, but we get called weirdos and we get blocked from certain channels in certain areas when we try to get this information out.
Everything is a conflict.
It gets back in the personality conflict. So the thing about it is, if somebody said, oh, well, don't talk to this person because they're a weirdo, or stay away from them because they're a weirdo, then you start to believe it instead of investigating for yourself. So now you gonna
Yo,
get
is it clear?
you about to get
is it
less
clear to
weirdo
say
because you
this?
on this channel, brother. You know that?
Look, listen, my dude, listen, I am a motherfucking rogue when it comes to this Aborigine shit. You know, I know certain people got disagreements with things, but I look at things and what can be applicable. I ain't got like none of y'all on this platform to tell you the truth. To tell you the truth, I ain't got like none of y'all, you know, but y'all got a remedy that people need to at least listen to. The same way Pan-Africans don't want to listen to us and we saying we are indigenous, the same way a lot of people, when it comes to this information, people stray away from. And that is exactly because, like I said, Phoenix Moon mentioned this before. And I was like, yo, when you was talking, when I was talking to you before, it stuck with me. I was like, yeah, the fair house, the fair housing. I just kept that in the back of my mind, and I was trying to see exactly how did it truly imply. Cause I got a copy of it that I was reading through, but it's kind of vague. But now it's all making sense because you saying that PIH is HUD. And HUD was only for black people, but now HUD is for all these immigrants, and that's what I'm trying to tell you. See, it's so what would be the who would have first dibs at HUD? Who would have first dibs at most of these services?
A1, it works like this. I can tell you for a fact because I'm actually using it now in my neighborhood, in my community. Anybody who lives in the area qualifies. It doesn't go by your color, where you come from, how much you make. It goes by the area that you in. See, here in Georgia, I'm in an area where the population is under 50,000. The whole city qualifies. It's just our people are not aware of these services. There's no special thing you have to give up, no special qualification. It's just being aware of the resources that are in your area. That you look at over years, there's programs way before YouTube. There's programs and particular leaders that embedded in us not to deal with this government, that embedded in us not to sit here and take a part. But by not playing a part, that's why we're still in this situation. The game been started. If we don't play ball, everybody else ain't gonna stop playing. It's time for us to play ball. Pick up our mechanisms and apply it to ourselves. Make sure that our finances rotate amongst our communities 13, 14, 15 times before we spend with somebody else. Not this condition, by the time we get the checks Friday, it's already gone back into everybody else's pocket. We gotta be more disciplined as a people. And it doesn't happen overnight, but we must start.
Big facts.
Indeed, but primarily, HUD was made for so-called indigenous people living in the urban community, right?
It was made for indigenous people, and it was also made for minorities. And here's one thing that a lot of people fail to remember because of the way history was written. The last minority to get recognition or to be represented were white women. The women's movement of the 1920s, they were the last minority. That's why when they say minority and women, why would they have to say and women if they were talking about our sisters? They say and women because they're talking about the European, aka white women that never had any representation or were not able to purchase land in the 16, 17, and 1800s. All the way up until the early 1900s. They are considered minorities. That's why if you go do some research and look up who are some of the owners of these minority-based businesses, they're white women. Because these white women qualify as minorities. So when they say minorities, it's not only us, it's white women. And that's the thing that a lot of people are forgetting to look at upon history. White women didn't have any rights. They couldn't own any land. If their husband died and it was a landowner, that woman would have to either get married or that land would be sold and put into a trust. And they were, when I say they, the white women end up getting with our sisters and using that information or using our sisters to partner with them to get the Women's Act of 1920 passed. Our sisters didn't need that. They were already able to purchase land. I got copies of deeds from my ancestors where my great 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 grandmother owned land. This is in the early 1800s.
Yeah, me and TMH went over court records of the women in my family suing to get land back from the state in the 1800s.
And Indian women could vote.
Yeah,
they were voting.
Think about it. Negroes had rights since the top of the 1800s. We had rights to vote. Yes, they had things where they wouldn't want us to vote, but we had the right to vote since the 1800s.
But we had rights before then, man. So, like, I mean, that's the whole. You had judges in the 1700s, man. So, like, black judges, man. So, it's a lot of stuff that's not clear. Like, I don't. Reconstruction really did a number on us, because how do you got a judge, the first black judge in 1750 something? How? Because they're lying about what's going on. It's not what we're being told was going on is not going on. The British were just here to trade. The white settlers came here and coast upon the land, and they just kept coming. And then, like I said, and they just kept coming, and they implemented a system to where they wanted to place you up under it. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, you know, and then even when you start seeing it, like a lot of people started saying that, like, all right, we started teaching these people, so hopefully these people will speak up for us later on, and they never did. They made classes like the Boule and these Alpha, these Sigma groups within these collegiate institutions or whatever, and allowed them to graduate. So it's a lot of stuff, like you said, man. I mean, even from the 1700s, man, a lot of people was not enslaved. The whole slave story is not what we being told. Were there people being transported from the Caribbean that was part of these plantations that worked with these people? Yeah, and they came to the South to work here too. So it's a lot of stuff that's not being told properly, man. You know what I'm saying? And it's not even being clearly understood. But what you said is true, though, about the white women. They did not have rights. And that's what they always say. I remember Dick Gregory said that white women didn't have rights.
Yep, so, it was the whole 1920 movement was about them getting rights.
But they up to the 1960s, you can beat your white woman with a stick that wasn't bigger than your thumb.
Yeah, think about it. When did the women's movement come back around? The women's movement didn't come back around to the 70s because they hijacked the so-called Black Power movement. Isn't it funny?
You never heard of that, Joe? You never heard of the rule of thumb?
That the fist in the air used to represent so-called Black Power. Now it represents the feminist movement. Think about it.
Yeah. And the feminist movement, everything else. And look who they had joined with a woman with an afro holding the fist. That's what I'm saying. Like, they always use people to like, I be watching, man. I don't know. I be just peeping stuff, man. And it be, you know, it be black men who be cooning, but I see a lot now. I see a lot of black women cooning more than. And I'm not trying to just be particular among gender, but I'm just saying, like, I just see a lot of that. I just see a lot more black women cool. I see that they take these stupid ass commercials. They take these stupid commercials with these geeky white boys like they married, and I'm like, yo, would you ever marry a guy like that ever in your lifetime? You know how picky black women are, or whatever. Would you marry a white geek guy like that? Like, I don't know. They just be promoting a lot of negative images among black women. Black men, yeah, black men are cool. We can definitely say that, but I see a lot of just like a lot of this, a lot of confusion amongst us. And I don't think, as long as we don't yield the resources, you're never going to get it back. See, the reason you can't get no respect because we don't yield resources. You think a woman going to want to be with you, nigga, you can't pay your rent? Or you can't pay your rent. You got to constantly, you know what I'm saying? Nah. And it's sad that it's sad that it's like that, though. But even if you can provide something, even if you is somebody who can, you can come up with a garden, or you got constant businesses, and you can provide for your family, then you can be looked up as a man. A lot of these women don't look up to us as men if we don't make more than they make, or if we don't live up to what our traditional man's supposed to be. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, at the end of the day, all of this has been propagated by the indoctrination because if you think about it, all of our prominent leaders, people that the masses, public opinion has deemed leaders, our melanated men, they end up becoming successful, and what do? They go marry who? They get rid of their melanated wife, and then they go do what? Sisters getting tired. Sisters getting tired of it, and then not only that, but the reason why the Europeans had a problem with the Indians and the matriarchal societies because the Europeans never respected their women. So they couldn't respect our women. So their first goal was to get our women removed from leadership. And the only way they could get our women removed from leadership was one, to take them off the land because they were tied to the land. Remember, the original farmers were our women. But they replaced the women with who? Male farmers. So they physically removed them off the land. Then they removed them off the land in paper by replacing them with their sons because they end up marrying these women.
Real quick. What? So, all right. So, what did you say? So the women was in control, right?
Yeah, our women were the winners.
Hold on. Let's just say that real quick. So the women will be in control. So the women will be considered what? The matriarch, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So if the European men came in and took control, they would call themselves what?
They were patriarchs.
Easy to understand that, and people don't even understand that shit. It's so easy to, it's so clearly easy to understand. Easy to understand. They put all this stuff in
they changed the way the power struggle went. Why do you think they devalued the black women like they do? Because in our culture, that rulership was passed down through the women. But now if you can control the women and distort their value, that changes future generations. They did this by design.
So the black woman is queen. It's like a lot of people be denying it, and I'm not in denial of that. The black woman is queen, because I see how strong black women is. You know what I'm saying? I see black men always give credit to their mothers. You know what I'm saying? Like regardless of whatever, you know what I'm saying? They always give credit to their mothers or whatever. And like you said, we deny that because we look at the woman that we're in front of now, and that's a shell of the individual who she was prior to the European invasion. And like you got ghetto gaggers, that just brings tears to my eyes, man. Like just even touching on that, of even we understand that the matriarch, and they took it from the black woman and made it the patriarch, and because they made it the patriarch, now you depend upon the patriots to provide for you, and they meanwhile they deny you from jobs, but boost the black women up. And like I said, that's just another systematic thing, but it's just meant to, just because even though the matriarch was they was the leaders and everything. Remember, we was the warriors and we was the farmers, but there was women that was warriors too. So I'm not even gonna go there with that. But you know what I'm saying? We was the farmers, we was the hunters, we was the warriors. You know what I'm saying? So everybody played their position. It was a polarity. It wasn't, all right, I can't have a child, but I can impregnate you and you can have a child. So it's a union. It's a union of both the man and the woman coming together. It's not just one.
They broke the balance of men and women in our culture.
Right.
That's what they did. They broke the value on how we valued each other. Because our ancestors knew without one, there was not the other. Our ancestors knew this. That even though that women were in charge of particular governance, at no time do you realize they let that get the best of them. And even though men was in charge of going out to war fighting, at no time did they let that get the best of them. They realized duality. They had to coexist to be successful. That's why they attacked our family structures first.
Man, I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to put it out there, because there are some domineering females that are out there that are claiming to be queens because they can talk loud. Because if you notice, when it came to the negotiations during war times, it was the men that was speaking. The women, yes, the women decided who the chiefs were going to be, but they knew their role as the elders. So although we use elders for male and female, the elders back then were your women. And it was a true union. So now you got females that think I can say anything that I want to a man because you subordinate and I'm always right and you always wrong. But you notice those type of women don't have men. So I'm not trying to get off, not trying to, get off on another subject. I just wanted to put it out there about that duality is that the men, like you said, the men had their roles to play and the women had their roles to play. And you had those, like I said, those European men that came over here that knew that. That's why this whole series that we've been doing, you notice that these European men and these Acadians, which your Scott Irish, were already here for thousands of years, and maybe we can talk about that during another series, but they were already here. They were marrying prominent women within these tribes. They were not just marrying some little squaw over there that didn't have anything. They married somebody, had babies by those that were up in the ranks. So their children would now be in charge. So the women are doing today, when you talked about those commercials, they're doing today what was done then. It's just history repeating itself. Because you had these European men marrying and having babies with, now replace it with Negro, black and colored women today. These were Indian women. It hasn't changed, but it started before then because you had the Esau men going over into Europe and having babies, and this is going to be another subject for another time, creating the Minoans. So history repeats itself. I yield the mic.
Yeah. They created more than just the Minoans. Remember, all of them people in the Iberian Peninsula resemble each other, whether we talk about the Turks can look like Spanish or Portuguese. The Portuguese and the Spanish and the Italians all look alike, and they all are, say, a mixed breed of people, or people who was created from interbreeding with other people. And we can see that, you know what I'm saying? We can definitely see that. And like I said, and I understand it go both ways because you got a lot of cool brothers who do get money. And I'm like this, man. If you got a choice, if you have a choice between taking one of your sisters and trying to work with her as dealing with this European lady, you know what I'm saying? Trying to just, you know what I'm saying? Dealing with, she's easy to get along with and not knowing, well, nah, man, listen, I owe it to my sister to marry one of my sisters and lead us to one of them no matter what I got to go through. You know what I'm saying? And that's what a lot of us have to do, man. We got to get an understanding with each other. Most of the time, it's more lust than it is an understanding. We look at women for what their bodies are and the beauty of opposed to looking at, well, what can I build with this individual? Are you willing to do this, or do you want to do this, or whatever? You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, that's where the responsibility still stands kind of on the man, because even today we being castrated or whatever. They only promote certain individuals. I look at how certain people can advance. And you know, and even amongst us, like when we start dealing with a lot of these white people, that it changes your whole mind state. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're no longer for your people. You're no longer thinking, well, I have to do this. You're thinking about money. You're thinking about all the things that they tell you or that they do. And then next thing you know, you pop up with a European white. And I would feel uncomfortable being the only black man among 6 or 7 white people, and I got a white wife. I will feel like a damn coon. Like, I would just be like, yo, this shit ain't right. I mean, excuse my language. I don't mean to keep cursing, but I would be like, nah, this ain't right, man. I mean, I would have to. I would have to just look at the situation like, yo, I'm the only black person here. You know what I'm saying? All these Europeans, and I'm not trying to be. It's all about race because they started it, so. That's what it's going to end with being race. It ain't going to end with being no kumbaya, because it's whoever you want to give power to, the next is going to come and pretty much do the same thing that the European did. So if you give power to the Chinese, they're going to oppress you. You give power to the Indians, they're going to oppress you. If you give power, and we don't understand that either. We look at it like, oh, if anybody other than European, yeah, you think so? Like I was talking to a brother the other day. He said in Guyana, the East Indian slaves that was brought in by the British, they racist against the indigenous people who was there. And it's happening everywhere. The ancestors of the Spanish, the conquistadors who live all in South and Central America, some of them thrive against each other. Some of them do. But then you got other situations where these people are more racist towards indigenous people than anything. So we pretty much understand what's going on. It's bigger than just saying, oh, well, it's the white. Because the next up the back won't be just the next. We see what the Chinese doing in Jamaica. The Chinese are scavengers. They will run through everything on the. Hey, give me 1 second, fellas.
Yeah, no problem. And it's funny to add on to what A1 was saying as well too, is that we say Chinese, French, Japanese, Korean, Italian, Russian, German, but guess what? When you look at how they label, they're all labeled as Europeans.
Even your West African son
are labeled as Europeans. We look at them as being different and giving them names that were given to broken up areas. But in reality, even in their classification on their landmass, they're all considered Europeans. Because that landmass isn't separated.
Fake borders get you every time.
Like we were saying last night we was talking, Spain is 9 miles from Africa. And not to mention, people keep forgetting about Spanish Angola. That part called Africa today was parts of Spain back then.
9 miles.
That you have you have African tribes, guess what they speak? Spanish.
What tribe? Oh. That was looking for.
Spanish Angola. Spanish Angola, the African tribes there. Spain been there since the 1600s. Them Africans are mixed in with the French. Are mixed in with the Spanish. They speak Spanish in Spanish Angola to this day.
So that would be by the Canary Islands as well, right? All of that would be around.
Yeah, because Spain, all that was Spain at one time. Okay, so we're looking at Spain on how it looks on the map today.
Okay, so what's the group of people Mary Cormeo was talking about a couple of weeks ago? The light-skinned people that live in Cape Verde Islands. Cape Verde. Would that have some connection with Cape Verde?
Yeah, because Spain was there first. Everybody keep forgetting. I'm gonna say it again. So-called Africa and so-called Spain are 9 miles apart. It's only 9 miles.
They different. 9 miles.
Yeah.
It's only 9 miles.
Yeah. But you know what though? That ain't even. You know what though? You right. And in certain parts, it's closer than that. Sir, you can go to certain parts. You can walk over to the Iberian Peninsula and then walk right through that. Because if I'm looking at my map right now, if you go from the top where Morocco is at right now, if you go from the top where Morocco is at, well, yeah, I guess that would be. But the tip of Morocco is right there by Spain. I don't even think it's 9 miles. It's touching it.
But you got to remember, at one time, Morocco was Spain.
I know that, and that's what all of this is connected with. And it was never called Morocco; it was called Andalusia. It was called Andalusia. So all of this was called, and then you see Rock of Gibraltar right here, or whatever. And the Rock of Gibraltar is in between Morocco and Spain, Seville, Spain, right here. You know what I'm saying? And like you look at it, you can look at it and tell. But I'm assuming, even when you talk about that our people left from the Americas and went over there and built that. That's what I believe. I only believe half of them Africans that was in Africa was there. I believe maybe it might have been Europeans that was pushed in from Africa, then pushed into Europe through Spain and France, and then walked up. Or I believe the other way, that they came either from Russia. Either which way, because I know Russia has some ancient civilizations too. You know what I'm saying? But even then, if you say that they came from Russia, now you have to really look at how these people might have came. Life could have started in America and went reverse. Reverse how they tell us the Bering Strait. No, people left from here and went across the Bering Strait and inhabited Russia.
It's
You
a
know what
good
I'm saying?
possibility. There's a good possibility.
Yeah, because well, which other way which way they came? I don't believe that they came from Africa and went into Russia. If the people wasn't already here. If it wasn't already black people, but you see what's happening all around the world. Everywhere where there was indigenous people at, they are now being gentrified, no matter by who the person are. It doesn't even matter if it's white, if it's Chinese, if it's Indian, if it's anybody. They're being replaced no matter what. And then the new remnants of them are the people you see there now. Just like everywhere. You know, you go in South America, the people in South America will claim that they're indigenous people and the black people are Africans. And they say that faithfully. Like they don't have no, you know what I'm saying? They say that faithfully. Oh, them was African slaves. So where you came from? Oh, you came from Spanish, right? Yeah. But yo, it's been a blast though, man. Until the next show, man, I'll definitely be listening, man.
A1 before you go, a couple of things. One, when you said that, you got to stay tuned because we'll be dropping some nuggets on who these people are and where they come from and proving who they are. And then two, when you actually go down there and talk to the people in Mesoamerica, when the cameras are off, when I mean by the cameras are off, I mean when the tour guides are away and you speak to the indigenous people of that land, they will tell you that the people that look like us are the original people and that the Olmec is the mother civilization. This comes out of their mouths, not anybody else. That's why I said the thing that we see on YouTube with people get YouTube clips and they'll say, oh, well, they saying that we all came from Africa. No, they are not. No, they are not. So I say, go to Guatemala, go to Belize, go into Mexico City, Chilango. I say it again, Chilango, Chilango, Chilango. If you say Chilango, you're going to get some people's attention. Indios, you're going to get their attention. So some nuggets are going to be dropped on who these people were and how they came over and what they brought and dealing with the customs and the people in these foreign lands all over in India, Northeast Africa, all of that. They're going to tell you who the people were that came in that land and how they got there. But I'm going to drop a little nugget. Turkish wheat, which is corn, which is maize. You will find it in Turkey. And they brought turkeys over there, which are the Issa. That is why Turkey is called Turkey today. I yield the mic.
Before you go, James, and the Issa would be who today? Known as who?
Catawba Saponi, the Navy.
The original Navy. The original American Navy. And also too, anyone when you was talking about Cape Verde, I put the link in there. It's considered to be part of the African country, and they speak Portuguese. That's their national language. So y'all are right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry because I saw Lady Free say something in the chat. And on the census too, you'll notice there are two separate categories of Hispanic or Latino. It says Hispanic, Latino, white, and then it says Hispanic, Latino, non-white. To go back again, your Latinos gets back to your Latinos, which gets back to the indigenous people of the Americas. Now we're gonna put our heads to bed, but I know it's getting late in the day, and I don't want to keep people going and up. But the deal is, you're gonna find out that a lot of these words that are claiming to be Spanish words, Latino words, are actually words that start over here, that were over here, especially when it comes to your food.
There go the Micmac again. There go the Micmac.
The Micmac, patty whack, give a dog a bone. You better recognize. Don't give me nothing but a microphone. I'm off the mic.
Your creators are Latino.
So to answer David Corey, he says the original Navy is who? Spell that, please. The original Navy is the Issa or Catawba Saponi. They were the Navy. They were the keeper of the waterways. And the Copper Color Queen says, so is that why the patriarchal system is so enforced due to our matriarchal system was so strong? That's exactly why Copper Color Queen is, because if we choose to continue to recognize the patriarchal society, we are in effect disrespecting our ancestors by ignoring our matriarchal society and disrespecting not only our ancestors but our sisters and our balance simultaneously. So before we get up out of here, is there any last words anyone would like to say before we let people get on with their day? Anyone, you got anything you want to say, bro?
Yeah, no doubt, man. Thank you for letting me build with you guys, man. Definitely, man. And, just for the community, man. We just need to get over the minor differences we got with each other. We got any things, make amends to each other. Me, I don't have no problem with anybody in the community, nobody. I just don't like to see the dysfunction because all of us have a part to play. Some people, like myself, I know about civics and I know about the history. Other brothers like you know how to access some of these funds that can be beneficial, as well as know the history and know some of the other things. So we gotta just try to really iron out our differences, man, because that's the problem. How they came here and took over, man. We repeating the same process that was implemented on us, and we ain't even seeing it in our entirety. Now, I know some things is out of people's control, but come on, let's come together as Aborigines, man. I once had a problem with the brother Dark Man, you know what I'm saying? And we came together, you know what I'm saying? We came together as well as some of the other people in the community. I don't have a problem with nobody because I'm here, I'm still learning. I'm not no master, I'm a master, just like the brother Kalanaga said, I'm a master learner. I'm here to learn everything. So I don't take nothing. As long as you ain't call my mother a B word, or you ain't say nothing detrimental to my family, or nothing else, everything else I can take, man. We used to hike in school and people used to say, oh man, and we was able to get over that and laugh and shit, you know what I'm saying? So anything other than you ain't done did nothing to my mother, you ain't done swindled none of my family out of no money, you ain't try to touch none of my kids or nothing. So anything other than that is just a petty difference that we can all try to just say, you know what, let's just get over this, man. Let's just try to come together. Let's just try to have a forum where we can just call for peace and just get over all the bullshit, man. So that's all I got, man. Thank you, brothers, man. And, like I said, I'll be listening, man. Shout out to all the Aborigine, North, South, Central, all the people. You already know who y'all are. And like I said, man, thank y'all, brothers. Y'all brothers have a good one, man. Peace.
You too. Appreciate you dropping by.
No sellout. Got anything that you want to add?
I appreciate A1 for coming out. Appreciate you guys today again for the information. Put some links in the chat. Peace, y'all.
James Flame, Doodle Vision, Choctaw Jimmy. What you got for us, bro? We roll out.
Oh man. I just want to thank you, brother A1 for giving that assist, and brother No Sellout for giving that second assist. If anybody knows about soccer, you got 4 and 5 assists, whoever touches the ball. I'm going to say this. I don't have a problem with anyone personally. I have problems if you are from Scam U. If you are claiming to provide a service or goods to the people and you do not provide that service or present those goods to the people, and this is becoming a habitual problem, I can't work with you. Because again, it's about business. It is about business. When you read about these tribes coming together, these communities coming together, these confederacies, these were business deals. So I cannot conduct business with someone I do not trust. Let me do this. I cannot go into business with someone I do not trust or cannot trust when they have proven themselves to be untrustworthy. So that's what I'm saying about all of that. And then I also want to say that if you are trying to spin a narrative or trying to silence someone because you feel that you control things, then it tends to be that you don't always have to have the loudest voice to get the message across. And sometimes it may take 10, 15, 20, sometimes 30 years before others catch on to what's being done and use that information. Again, prime example, 1968, 51 years later, we're just now catching on. Yeah, so think about that. And I'm gonna say this to the women that are out there that are doing your thing. I am proud of what you have done and what you are doing. Keep doing what you're doing. That know that the man is just as valuable as you are, and that the man is not beneath you. Also to the men that understand the value of the woman, and that the woman is not beneath you, but it's about duality. It's always been about duality. So for those that don't understand that, and for those that don't understand about how to conduct business, when you go into a business deal, when you go into a contract with someone, there has to be a level of trust, which is why in business deal you have trustees. But that's another subject for another time. I know I'm going on and I know I'm rambling, but when you go back and replay it, I said what I said, and I'll keep saying what I say for a reason. And if you don't know, now you know, baby. I yield the mic. Thank y'all for the panel. Thank y'all in the chat. Thank y'all that'll be listening later on, because I know you're listening. And also taking notes from A2 and everything that's being done. Next time, just give us credit. I yield the mic.
So, A1, I agree with you as far as us coming together. The challenge that I've had from day one is that, unlike many people, when I signed into YouTube, I signed in under my business name, which is attached to my real name, which is all over the internet. I do business not only in just the United States, but worldwide. I've had people in this community spread lies and false narratives about me and my business in public, and it was false. Have not received one apology, and they refuse to do a three-way call to address it, because their names aren't attached to these icons, because their names aren't attached to these emails, so they can say what they say and get away with it. I'm held to a different standard because I own multiple businesses. So when you are participating in scams, but you accuse me of doing things and I've done nothing and my record is immaculate and clean, but the people that you are siding with are known scammers and you're calling me out, I got a problem with that. Especially when my name is associated with my business. And I'm going to say this like I keep saying it. In this community, my address is the only address that you can find. The only one. Anybody can come to my office and see where I'm at. So I'm not hiding and I'm not hidden. So with that being said, libel, slander, defamation is a real thing for me and my family. And I don't play that. You have one time to do that to me. Especially if you don't apologize or make amends or correct it. I refuse to fall into the same situation that my ancestors fell into by being quiet and just acquiescing because of some views, because of some public opinion. There are over 1 million people in my county. There are very few people in this community that have over 40,000 views. My community is important to me. Those are the people that I influence, and those are the people that know me. And if people want to continue to slander my name and what I do, you will be hearing from my lawyer. So until they get that right and stop their scamming, they're going to have a problem with me, and I'm going to have a problem with them. And for those that like to create all these memes of back chats and spread rumors against individuals and they don't get checked, I got a problem with you as well. Because you are enabling and promoting something that caused us to be in this situation that we're in now. Because you're scared to confront the person because of their perceived views on YouTube or where you can sit as far as being on their panel. So my issue is business and it's personal. So again, I've had people in the back chats call me out or call out my business. I am who I am on this icon. I don't have a pseudo name, and I'm not knocking anybody that does. But I am more exposed than most people, so therefore I don't have the liberty that most people do. So I hear what you say, A1, but at the end of the day, people can throw rocks and hide their hands. And if you see somebody throwing a rock, not you in particular, A1, but if people see people throwing rocks and hiding their hands and not calling them out, how can I trust you? Because you're the same person that's telling me we all need to get along, but you knew the person that threw that rock and you not calling them out. Where I'm from, that'll get you murked on the spot. And I'm not even from a big city or big town. So with that being said, I yield the mic. Bones.
Hey, you know,
Go ahead.
let me just address that real quick, right? Like, look, listen, I don't know what's going on with people in the community. All I hear is, oh, every now and then, oh, it's this problem with this person, or I don't even get brief. Like, you may think that I'm in the know and everything. Nah, I'm in this for the history. I'm in this to help my people. A lot of the back stuff, I don't even really be in a lot of these chat rooms like that. So I honestly don't know what truly be going on. I'm just saying, just for everybody, you know what I'm saying? So if I knew, and I came on your platform and I truly knew what was going on between you, I know semi was going on between you and Chief, okay? But as far as any other individuals or anybody, we talked about the thing with Chief or whatever. I talked to Chief about it, and that's that. I shake my hands off. But as far as any other individuals, I don't even be knowing what be going on, bro. Because don't nobody hit me up like, yo, you know we got a problem with this person, or we got a problem with this. I'm not in this for this. If I was, I wouldn't even be on this chat room talking to you right now. Because I don't play two sides. I don't play both. I'm a real nigga, and people know me on the streets for being that. People know me through any walks of life, was it work, was it anything of me being an upstanding person. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't play both sides of the fence. You know, your brothers had a wonderful topic. We had a wonderful build. Like I said, I don't hold no animosity towards anybody. I just wish that, you know, certain individuals, if we do have problems, just iron it out. That's my view. I don't know what's going on between individuals. You understand what I'm saying? And
I don't mean to interrupt your flow, man. And I know Brother Bones has got to go, but I'm going to say this. Here's the deal. Here's where you hear certain things, and I'm going to say this. From the other side, you don't hear anything that we've done as far as wronging somebody. And that's why I say again, wronging somebody is you have promised to provide a goods and or services, and you did not follow through with those goods of services. When have you heard that? You won't hear that. You'll hear, oh, this person is a weirdo. Oh, or they're a weirdo. Oh, or they're a weirdo. You have to do better than that. Give something concrete that someone has done to you or wronged you to where a business deal has fallen through or you paid for something and didn't receive it. You don't hear that from anybody that's a part of A2 or affiliated with A2. So then that's why I said for anyone that will bring a bone, will take a bone. So these are the questions that you have to ask when they pull you in and say, hey, how did they wrong you? They can't give you any details. None. Zero. That's the problem. So then if that's the problem, then they are the problem. Which is why I say again, I don't have a problem with anyone personally. It is when my name being affiliated with something that is shady or janky, I can't afford to do that. That's the problem. I'm not going to go into business with someone if I can't trust them? And if I can't trust them based upon proof, evidence, receipts have been shown, receipts have been provided. So if you have a track record of doing this, why am I going to go into business with you? It doesn't make sense. I yield the mic.
And I know A1 that you don't get down like that, and you're not about the drama. But at the end of the day, what it boils down to is, like I said, I gotta protect me and my family because ain't nobody else gonna do it from that aspect. And again, my name is tied to my email address. TMH is my company. So when people start slandering and other things like that, you basically told me everything I need to know about you. And then you don't produce any results, then that's going to be a problem. So I say that so people that are listening can understand that, I don't personally have a problem against anybody. And my mentality has always been all things can be forgiven and all things can be repaired. But at the end of the day, people need to start taking accountability, and they're not. And my mentality has always been this. I'm not going to be rocking with somebody that's a scammer and then call somebody else a scammer and I don't have any proof. And that's basically what's happening. And like James said, there's been many receipts produced. There's been many recordings made. There was one recording of 13 that was already dropped. And people scattered like roaches. And then people got eliminated and removed from chats. And then people get blocked from channels. Then they make statements like, well, this, that, and the third, and then you can't get on their channel to defend yourself because they didn't block you. Creating this narrative. At the end of the day, you don't see what they're doing in their community.
But the Thomas, I'm gonna say something that you can go right back.
Yeah, go ahead.
And those recordings were acknowledged public recordings, not secret recordings. I want to put that out there because I don't want anybody to say, oh, they were secretly recording somebody and they agents. No,
Agents.
These were public, known
Governance
business
meetings.
recordings. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I just wanted to put that out there.
So at the end of the day, everything that we do, we have proof of. Everything that we started, we have proof of. Everything that we're about, we have proof of. If you come to Woodbridge, Virginia, and you mention my name, and you mention my company, the community knows who I am. There are people that are signed up as subscribers of Atante's Assembly that have come to my office. So we have people in our communities that are listening in right now. And one of the questions that I caught flack from a couple of months ago was, if people don't know who you are in your community, why don't they? If people don't know what you're doing in your community, why don't they? That's why I had to talk about the difference between something being secret, something being sacred, and something being shared. Because now the narrative is, well, we can't tell everybody anything. Newsflash, we drop everything for a reason. If you're not talking to one another face to face, and you're corresponding via some type of media, i.e. phone, i.e. hangouts, whatever you discuss, according to the Patriot Act, is being recorded. And it's not being recorded by a member, it's being recorded by that entity. That phone service that you're a part of, that you're having a conversation with, is being recorded. The back chat that you're using, by virtue of the Patriot Act, is being recorded. So if you're saying that you're not meeting one another, but you're doing things and you're putting things together, everything that you're doing and putting together is already being recorded and is being archived and everybody already knows. So you're not doing something that's clandestine. What you're basically doing is, to me, saying that you're doing something and you're not doing anything because you don't show any proof. But yet you want to throw rocks and hide your hands. Like I said, I'm in the community. That's why our shows don't last that long, because after this, we go to work. That's why we have community spotlight. And it's not just for our community, it's for everybody's community. So at the end of the day, it's about who can vouch for you. That's how tribes used to be. You couldn't just walk on somebody's reservation and not have somebody vouch for you. You get scalped. So how is it nowadays that people could just come on people's channels, Don't nobody know anybody's name. Don't nobody know where they're from. Don't nobody know anybody about them, and everybody's cool with them all of a sudden. You can't walk in nobody's neighborhood like that. This virtual YouTube persona that these people are propagating is just that. Fake land. It doesn't exist. And so because now we're talking about going back to our ancestral ways of verification and being accountable, people got problems with that. I'm sorry, you're going to have a problem with it. But like I said, I'm the only person in this community whose address is public. So people can bang their chests all they want to because they can hide behind these icons. I don't have that luxury to hide behind the icons. I just don't. So therefore, I'm going to be more stringent, and I'm going to be more careful, and I'm going to be more strategic. And if a person has a problem with accountability, then by default, they have a problem with me, and I'm sorry, and that's their right. And I'm not judging them, I'm not knocking. I just can't deal with people that don't want to be real. It's just a personal preference of mine. So without belaboring the point, again, I don't have a problem with anybody. I just got a problem with people that scam. Everybody can be redeemed if they choose to. So with that, I yield the mic to Bones, and you can take us out of here, bro.
All I got to add on to that is basically right is right, wrong is wrong. We all grown. We know what it is. Let's clean up on the communities, the virtual ones and our physical ones, so we can move forward. We're not willing to do that. We ain't doing nothing but standing in the mud looking at each other stupidly. Like we always say, it's fun when we get together with the relatives. No place we'd rather be in the rising. Always a great build when we always get together. Again, like to thank Brother A1 for joining us on the panel. I'd like to thank the chat, the greatest chat on the planet, for always being interactive and making sure that we always sharing this information and looking at these links. And until the next Rising show, peace.